Prospect Week continues as Colby and I rank prospects 20 through 11 in the Mariners farm system. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ahoy, sailors. It is Wednesday, February 21st, 2024. This is Ty and Colby and Colby Patnett for the Locked On Mariners podcast, brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers join today, and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn, that's LOCKEDON, to get yourself started. Thank you so much for making us your first listen. Subscribe, like, and turn on alerts if you're watching on YouTube, or subscribe and leave a 5-star review on your preferred podcast platform if you like what you hear. And if you're part of the crew and rock with us every single day, let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. And if you want to hear from us even more, please consider signing up for our Patreon. You can now get a free 7-day trial to check out the show. The link, as well as our social accounts, is in the description of this episode. And on the show today, we'll, of course, be ranking prospects 20 through 11 in the Mariners farm system. We did 30 through 21 yesterday, and we'll have the top 10 for you tomorrow. Be sure to check out yesterday's episode if you want to know who made the back end of our list. And a quick reminder of how this works. Colby and I create our own individual top 30 lists. We then combine those lists by using a points-based system where each ranking has a numerical value. And if there is a tie between 2 or 3 players, the tiebreaker goes to whoever had the highest ranking in our individual list. Pretty simple, right? So let's begin the top 20, which is going to be a pretty interesting group of players today. Yesterday, we focused on a lot of guys that they have to have a big year in order to stay in the top 30. Today, we're going to be focusing in on a lot of guys that have either already made their major league debut, or they're on the doorstep of doing so. And then there's also a couple of guys sprinkled in there that are a ways away from the big leagues, but have a ton of upside. So it's going to be a really fun group. And we're going to start here with Blake Hunt, who the Mariners acquired from the Tampa Bay Rays, one of the first acquisitions they made this offseason. And I think he's one of the more underrated pickups for the Mariners this offseason, especially after losing Tom Murphy, because there's a non-zero chance they're pretty much the same guy. He's a pretty good athlete with, I would say, average, maybe slightly above average skills behind the plate. Really good pop time, for example. And offensively speaking, there's a decent chance he's pretty useful. He's made some great strides in adding bat speed over the last couple of years. Some decent pop. Seems to have a pretty good understanding of the strike zone, even though that he has struck out quite a bit down in the minors. But that's like 98% of catchers for the most part. The pop is more doubles, or at least it's been more doubles than home runs so far down in the minors. But he does have some over-the-wall power, especially against lefties. And at the very least, I feel pretty good about him being a solid backup catcher in the majors for the next several years. Colby, what do you think?
Yeah, it's a really interesting profile, and I don't think we can quite say that he's definitely just a backup. He does have some starter traits, and we know the bar for being a starting catcher in Major League Baseball pretty low, at least, in terms of there's just not, it's a supply and demand issue. There's just not 32 good catchers, like well-rounded catchers in baseball. So it's really hard to have 2 of those guys. The Mariners definitely have one in Raleigh. They might have a second in Hunt. This is a guy who really crushed sliders last year. As part of the, the strides he made as a hitter. He does have good pop, particularly against lefties. He's going to hit some home runs for you. And like you said, he's pretty good behind the plate. He calls a good game. Pitchers like throwing to him. Pretty good pop time. So he has a shot to nab runners in this new era where stolen bases are making their comeback. So yeah, it's a very Tom Murphy-like profile. And there's a chance that he's the primary backup catcher, sooner rather than later. Like, we have to wait and see what Sebi Zavala does, but Hunt gives you a legitimate third option that the Mariners haven't had since like 2019 when they ran their 3-headed monster at catcher. So there's a non-zero chance Hunt, kind of develops into a guy that, hey, if he catches 100 games a year for you, you're in a pretty good spot behind the plate. Like, he does have that upside still left in him, but the high floor as a legitimate major league catcher who can catch 60 to 70 games a year and you're totally fine with it. It's not a black hole in the lineup. You're sacrificing so much defense to get somebody who can kind of hit. Like Hunt's
Yeah.
a good, useful, valuable player. And the fact that the Mariners were able to get him, thanks to the Rays roster crunch, one of the more underrated acquisitions, because now Seattle is significantly better in terms of catcher depth than they were the last few years, with no disrespect to Brian O'Keefe and Joseph Odom and guys like that. But Blake Hunt is a guy who he's going to get to the big leagues and he's going to stick for at least 5 to 10 years. Like this guy can do it. So it's a really sneaky acquisition, and it's basically getting Tom Murphy without the injury concerns for about $3.5–4 million less than it would have cost to just keep Tom Murphy. So really savvy move, and Hunt is a really interesting guy, and he's one of those guys who could come up and help you more than people are giving him credit for. Like there's a legitimate chance that the Mariners have acquired essentially an everyday quality catcher to be their backup.
So coming in at number 19 is another player the Mariners acquired this offseason due to a roster crunch for the other team. That's Samad Taylor, who they got from the Kansas City Royals a few weeks back. And we've talked a lot about Samad and why we like him. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but the gist of it is really good athlete who, at the very least to me, is going to have a role in the majors as a base stealer and multi-positional defender. And there's a non-zero chance he'll be able to hit because he's done it at every level of the minors so far. So love the steal when they made it. Really like the player. What do you think?
Yeah, you had him ranked kind of significantly higher than I did. I think 5 spots. So to me, he's Sam Haggerty's replacement next year. Like that's the primary reason for acquisition, but he did crush lefties in the minors. There is some pop against lefties, and he does provide an element of versatility and athleticism that the Mariners need in the organization, particularly if something happens to Dylan Moore. He is, kind of a fringe major league bat in terms of a role player. Like I don't see an everyday player here. But I do see a guy who, again, like Sam Haggerty, can come up. You can kind of bounce him back and forth between the minors and the majors. You can put him in the right spot, give him a chance to succeed at the plate, and then he can do a lot of things off the bench for you at the end of the game. He's a solid player. He's a useful player, and there's a chance, because he's still pretty raw. There's a chance that he can develop into a platoon type of hitter who is essentially Dylan Moore instead of Sam Haggerty. I think Moore is a better player than Haggerty. I think we can all agree on that. And so I think that's probably what the ceiling is. But, I think he's a major leaguer, which obviously helped. I mean, he is a major leaguer. He's played in the big leagues. That helps your prospect rank. And there are a lot of different ways he can kind of help you. And that's a valuable piece to have in your organization. And he might just hit just enough against righties that he could, squeak his way into being the 9-hole hitter 100 times a year.
Right. So coming in at number 18, a lot of people are not going to like this. Emerson Hancock. The way Hancock's pro career has gone so far is incredibly disappointing. And, I feel for the guy because obviously several injuries have hindered his development. And there's been a lot of stop and start for him. But the fact of the matter is he has a lot of wear and tear on his body. And the stuff right now is, I think it's fair to say, fringe major league quality at best. And he doesn't really locate it well. That said,
painfully mediocre.
Yeah. That said, I think he's still going to end up being a solid number 5 in the majors one day. I'm not sure if that's going to be in Seattle. And that's obviously very much dependent on him being able to stay healthy, which has just not been the case at all during his pro career. But yeah, I'm not sure if he's going to be able to go beyond that with everything we know right now about him.
Yeah, it's really average control. It's below average command. It's 91, 92 mile an hour fastball. Doesn't have, great spin. It doesn't have great movement or run or life, or it's just kind of a flat 91, 92. It's got a little bit of arm side run, but not a ton there. The slider is kind of mediocre at best. It's a fringe pitch. His best pitch is his changeup, but if you can't locate the fastball and you can't get value out of the fastball, the changeup's only going to get you so far. So the reports early out of camp at least seem to be that they really like what they're seeing from Hancock. And again, if we could see him get into games this spring and he's throwing 93, 94, 95 instead of 90, 91, 92,
Yeah.
that would be a really good sign. But he's got to either get more value out of the fastball so that the changeup will play up, or he's got to add a legit breaking ball. Just a bummer because like coming out of college, like he had frontline stuff and like prototypical.
I thought he was going to be
size.
an ace. Yeah.
I thought he was going to be better than Kirby and Gilbert. Like he definitely had, he was a better prospect than those guys when he was drafted.
Yeah.
And it just, the shoulder injuries, a couple of them, it just kind of drained him of a lot of his natural ability. And maybe he bounces back. I would love to be wrong because if Hancock is a lot better than we think he is, it opens so many doors for the Mariners.
Yeah.
Both with Hancock sticking around, maybe you can trade Hancock for more than you thought you could. Maybe you trade Woo because you really like what you see from Hancock. Like it opens so many doors. If Emerson Hancock just is even like what we thought he was at the beginning of last year, which is like Kyle Gibson-y, right? Like it opens a lot of doors if he's that. I don't know. It is definitely a put up or shut up year for Hancock. If he does not perform and stay healthy this year, he's going to be pitching in a different organization next spring training, and you can pretty much take that to the bank.
All right, we will be continuing prospects 20 through 11 in just a moment. We'll also give you a status report on our giveaway. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. With football officially in the books and some time before baseball gets underway, why don't you try your hand at betting on some hoops? Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and more. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. That's FanDuel.com/LOCKDON. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. Thank you again for making us your first listen. And as a reminder, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And before we get back into prospects 20 through 11 and our preseason farm system re-rank, Colby's giving away some of his stuff. We are still 52 subscribers as of the time of this recording, still 52 subscribers away from our next tier in the giveaway. But for anyone that maybe missed yesterday's episode or Monday's episode, Colby, could you give them a quick reminder of what you're giving away and what the tiers are?
Sure. So I'm giving away... we're calling it a mystery box. I'm going to tell you guys what's in it as we approach each new tier. So the mystery box gets more stuff added to it as we hit every 100 new subscribers. So when we get to 10,900, new cards will drop. I will tell you guys what is being added to the box when we get to the next level. This is what we have so far already in the box, guaranteed. We have a Jared Kelenic numbered autograph card, really beautiful card. We have a Mitch Garver numbered signature dual swatch relic autograph card from 2021. It is a very nice card.
That's
for the Mariners' new designated hitter. We have this Harry Ford Bowman Chrome refractor card, not numbered or autographed or anything like this. And I'm going to throw in some Mariner legends in here too. Legends. Randy Wynn autograph card.
Hey, he's a legend to me.
I love Randy Wynn. So
yeah, same.
That is what is in the box already. If we get to 10,900, I will be adding to the box this Lazaro Montes numbered refractor
Baby
card.
Jordan.
That's right. And then this is probably my favorite card, just aesthetically. This is a 5 out of 5 Prolander Baroa autograph card. From Wildcard. It is a gorgeous card. Again, there are only 5 of these that were made, and this one will be added to the box if/when we get to 10,900. When we get to 10,900, I'll tell you guys what I'm adding to the box if we get to 11K. And let me tell you guys, you want to get us to 11K because, or you want to, you do, because Ty knows some of the stuff that I purchased for this box, that he has an idea of what's going in it, and it's a pretty good prize. To enter, all you have to do is subscribe to this channel, leave a comment on any video during the length of this giveaway. The terms and description, terms and conditions are in the description. There we go.
There we go. Coming in at number 17 here on our prospect re-rank is Cade Marlo.
He's passable center field. He's a pretty good defender in the corners, even though it doesn't look great sometimes. He gets there. He makes the play. It doesn't look great sometimes, but and I think he made some tweaks in AAA last year, in the middle of the year that really, could pay off for him. I think there's a non-zero chance he is an everyday quality guy. He's got a little bit of pop. He can steal some bags. He's a good defender. Like, he does a little bit of everything well. The question is, can he really put the ball in play enough at the major league level? You can be a 26% strikeout guy and still be a good hitter at the big league level. It's going to be tough for a guy like Kade Marlo to do that. Marlo has to be 24%, somewhere in that range, because he's just not going to hit. He doesn't have 30 home run power, right? It's going to be 15 home runs. It's going to be, 20 steals and pretty good defense along the way. Like, he might be Randy Wynn. He might also just be, a number 4 or a fourth outfielder who kind of, rotates around and gets 300 plate appearances a year. I think he's a big leaguer. I think he has a shot to pop this year. I think it's going to be tough for him to make his impact at the beginning of the year, because it seems like the Mariners love dominant Canzone. But I would not be shocked at all if Kade Marlo is just the better player than Dom Canzone.
I'm just not sure if he's a quad A guy or an actual bench piece yet. The swing and miss is a real concern.
Interesting. Tell me again, where do you have Jonathan Clase? Yeah, that's what I thought.
I mean, the upside is a lot higher with Clase, though. We'll get to that. Yes, it is. We'll get to that in a second. But coming in at number 16 is Carlos Vargas, who the Mariners acquired in the Eugenio Suarez deal, of course. Disgusting stuff. But with every reliever who comes with this profile, I just, I worry about him being able to throw enough strikes. And if he can't, then he's going to flame out pretty quick, right? We've seen it time and time again with guys like Gerson Bautista, Tiago Vieira, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But that's it. The upside here is immense. And there's a real shot at a high leverage reliever who's going to light up the radar gun. So, and I mean, when you think about what the Mariners already have in their bullpen, if you're able to hit on one of Vargas or Jackson Kowar, look out. This bullpen is going to be just nuts.
There's a non-zero chance. And by that, I mean, there's a reality out there somewhere in the timeline tree that Loki's holding together,
right,
where Carlos Vargas is Emmanuel Clase. It's a 102 mile an hour fastball with a 95 mile an hour cutter, slider cutter. It's gray area. We know how hard it is to differentiate a hard cutter or a hard slider from a cutter sometimes, but that's what we're talking about here. It is filthy stuff with those two pitches.
Yeah.
Can he get it near the strike zone? Doesn't have to have, plus command. He just has to get it near the strike zone, and he will be an effective big league pitcher. Can he do it? I don't know. And that's why he's not top 10, because if he could do it, he's top 10, even though he's a reliever, because this is, again, it is like all-star closer type of stuff. So can he do it? I don't know. I like that it's the Mariners who are going to try and get him to do it. And I'm really excited to see him. I'm hoping we get to see him in one of the 12 games that is televised this spring. But he is definitely an electrifying arm. And if he could just get to 4.5 base on ball per nine, if he could just walk 10% of the guys, 11% of the guys instead of 15, he has a chance to be that really the fourth high leverage arm. But I mean, I don't want to disrespect Gabe Spire, so we'll say fifth high leverage arm in this bullpen. The Mariners have something pretty elite if Vargas hits, and he has a chance to. It's not wishful thinking to think that the Mariners can't get him to 45 control and command, because if they do that, this dude's a really good big league high leverage arm.
Yeah, you're talking about the Mariners bullpen getting into a very special conversation. All right, coming in at number 15, Jonathan Clase. All right, so tell me why you have Cade Marlo over Jonathan Clase, and why you think the upside with Marlo might be a bit better than Clase. At least that's what you were alluding to.
Sure. Well, first of all, I know that Cade Marlo is a major leaguer. I don't know that yet about Clase.
You
Clase
know
swings and
about Kade
misses.
Marlo? All right.
Yes, I do.
All right.
Clase swings and misses a lot. So if that's a problem you have with Cade Marlo,
Yeah. I
look in the
do have
mirror.
a
He swings and misses
big
a
problem
lot.
with.
And despite his plus speed, some say double plus, some say he has 80 grade speed, which I
Yes.
don't think he does. I think it's 70, but like we're splitting hairs, so let's not
70,
do that. That's my job.
75. Yeah, whatever.
Sure,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
He can't play center field. Like he's not a good defender. He has
that's a
terrible
problem.
instincts.
That's a problem.
So
Yeah.
he is a corner outfield only guy
Mhm.
who swings and misses a ton. He has some raw power, but we're not talking about 30 home runs.
No.
Like that's not what he profiles as. So
15,
can he
20
get
though,
on
maybe?
base enough? Maybe, but can he get on base enough to take advantage of the speed? And can he be even an average corner? Because I'm telling you right now, he is not an average defender at any of the 3 outfield spots, despite the elite speed.
Right.
Like, come on. There are so many questions left with this guy. And you know, I think that there is this huge disconnect between like the average like Mariner fan who just like, oh, he went 20-40 or whatever last year, 20-50 or whatever. And it's like, yeah, he also struck out like 30% of the time, and he's not a center fielder. And like there are real concerns about his ability to make contact consistently at AAA, let alone the major league level. And yet, if he does,
Yeah.
he's an everyday player.
Right.
So it's kind of a balancing act with Clase, because like the ceiling is like the raw tools are what they are. Like they are, wow. But like actually applying those tools in a baseball game at the major league level, I'm not confident Clase can do that yet. So that's why I'm really confident that Marlo is at least a really good like number 4 outfielder, fringe everyday guy. I don't know if Clase can even get to the big leagues like with regularity and stay at the big league level. So we'll see. To be fair, I did rank them like 1 spot apart from each other, 2 spots apart from each other. So it's not a huge difference here. I'm going to value the floor a little bit here, because I think the ceiling for Clase is a corner outfielder with some power who might get on base enough for his speed to matter.
Yeah. I feel like I went floor heavy through the first half of this list, that I did want to shoot for the moon a little bit. And Clase is definitely shooting for the moon.
Sure.
The upside is high, like we established. And I get why a lot of people really like him. But it's also pretty easy to see how things could fall apart for him very, very, very quickly, which has me a bit nervous, to be honest with you.
Like a really simple like litmus test for like, should you take these people seriously when they talk about Mariner prospects, is Clase. Is he in this person's top 10?
Yeah,
they're looking at their box score scouting. They're not looking at.
He's not a top.
No, he's
well,
not.
Even if you're box score scouting, though, he wasn't good in AA this year or last year.
Right. He was,
94 WRC plus.
Yeah, he had moments,
in 108 games.
Yeah, he wasn't great.
Yeah, like he had he was awesome in about 100 plate appearances down in high A, but then he came up to AA and he was pretty mediocre.
Yeah.
So, like, we don't even know if this dude can hit at a AA level right now.
Yep.
But again, the raw tools are very, very exciting.
We know Cade Marlo can hit at the AAA level.
All right. Fair enough. Got a few more prospects coming up here in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by Gametime. Buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful. Gametime is a fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. And with killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. So forget planning months in advance. Gametime has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Snag the tickets without the stress with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDON, that's LOCKDON, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem promo code LOCKEDON, that's LOCKDON, for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last-minute tickets, the lowest price guaranteed. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. Thank you again for making us your first listen here on Prospect Week. It's prospects 20 through 11 here in the Mariners farm system. We've already gone through 2019, 18, 17, 16, and 15. And coming in at number 14, Teddy McGraw. Teddy McGraw, the Mariners' 3rd round pick in this past year's draft. And he is another double elbow procedure guy. Notice I didn't say double Tommy John because the second procedure was more like a fix, right? What did they do exactly? I can't remember
Some
what
kind
it
of like
was.
brace that they
Yeah, it was
put
a
in there or
brace.
something.
Yeah. So what I guess the first question you might be asking right now is what distinguishes Teddy McGraw from Cole Phillips, who we put a lot lower in our rankings after the news of his second surgery came out. And I mean, some of it is just McGraw is more refined, right?
Mhm.
And he's likely to see the field a lot sooner than Phillips.
He's going to pitch this year, last I heard,
Yeah.
which is not true for Phillips at all.
Yeah. And he has the makings of a mid-rotation starter. It'll just be about raising the ceiling on his arsenal and, of course, keeping him on the mound. So what do you think about McGraw?
Yeah, really like the arm here. Probably the best combination of stuff and proximity in the system, which is why he's the second highest ranked pitcher on our list. So,
Right.
yeah, it's 4 pitch. This is him in college. 4 pitches, 2-seamer up to 98 with good arm side run, and both the fastball sat in the mid 90s. So, good velocity, good value on that pitch, which obviously gives you a start right away. Memory serves, he is one of those guys who can absolutely spin a breaking ball. His weapon of choice is a slider. It's very sweepery. He can also firm up that slider too and get it up into the lower 90s, so it's almost more like a cutter. So a couple pitches there, and the changeup, we'll see. Like that's the X factor here. But there's a chance that the Mariners just pop him in the bullpen, and he could actually impact this team in September. But should be if they put him in the bullpen right away. Next year, he probably makes his debut. If they want to keep him stretched out, they want to give him a chance to start. It's probably going to be not until sometime middle of next year that he's even like on the radar. But I think they should give him the opportunity to start. It is a starter arsenal, and he's got good size, threw strikes in college. The stuff is really good. So if McGraw was healthy in his draft year, he was going to be a late first round pick. So like it's incredibly talented. It's an incredibly talented arm, pretty good athlete, has a chance to have 2+ fastballs and a plus slider. And we'll see on the changeup. Like I think McGraw is a guy who could be a strong number 3 starter if health checks out. But if the Mariners don't want to mess around with like the health and all that stuff, and they just want to put him in the bullpen right away, he's high leverage. Like he's got that type of stuff. So McGraw, good chance if he can stay healthy to have a major impact for the Mariners, either on their team or in the trade market. Like McGraw is a good prospect.
Coming in at number 13 is Jeter Martinez, who, if you know a thing or two about the Mariners farm system, you can put 2 and 2 together that this is our number 1 ranked pitcher in the Mariners farm system. But if you don't know a ton about the Mariners farm system, right now it's not great in terms of pitching. So we're here at number 13. Yeah, a lot of upside, but 13 is the highest that we're ranking a pitcher in the farm right now, which is
imagine telling someone that
great.
4 years ago.
Yeah,
that the Mariners bats would become like what they're known for developing.
That's right. And the top rated pitcher is, of course, quite a few years away.
Yes,
as well. Martinez, though, has by and large the highest upside of any Mariners pitcher in the farm system right now. He needs to fill out a bit more, but he's already seen good progress on his fastball, his changeup, and his breaking ball. He was really good in his first year pro ball this past year in the Dominican. So really looking forward to seeing what he does in 2024.
I'd be a little bit surprised if we saw Modesto this year, but not shocked. But he's just 18 years old, 6'4", about $180. So there is a lot of good weight to go add. But he's already, 90, 93, 94, up to 98, 99 with the fastball. Pretty good slider already. He's a good athlete, repeats his delivery, throws strikes. He's got to clean it up a little bit. Like last year, I think he had it was about 12% walk rate. That's a little high. But again, he's 17 years old last year. So this guy has the potential to be a frontline starter. So why is he not in the top 10? He is 3-4 years away from sniffing the big leagues. He is a long ways off, but if everything checks out, like he fills out, he adds the good weight, he keeps his athleticism. In theory, you add more weight, you're going to throw harder. He has a chance to be 98, 99, 100 with a fastball, with a wipeout slider who throws a lot of strikes and maintains good athleticism. Like that's a frontline starter. That's at least a mid-rotation guy. So again, we'll have to wait and see. It's going to be a while before you see this guy, but don't sleep on him. He has the potential to be the best arm in the Mariners system. In 3 years. Like he's the best arm right now, but he has a shot to be the best starter in the Mariners rotation in about 4 or 5 years time. It's just, we know how the longer the road, the more things can go wrong. So that's why he's not in the top 10, but he is a very good arm.
Also, Jeter Martinez, pretty dope name.
That's a great baseball name.
Yeah.
80 great name.
Coming in at number 12 is Dwell Joseph, who the Mariners just recently signed in the international signing period last month. He was their top signee and was considered to be one of the best prospects in this year's class. He's 16, so you're not going to see him for a long time, if ever. But there's a good reason that he was highly regarded in this class. There's a really good shot he's going to stay up the middle, whether it's at shortstop or center field. Potential for plus speed, plus hit tool, some good pop as well. That can obviously change a great deal, of course, because as he starts to fill out physically, because that's just the case with a lot of these guys who you bring into your organization at 16, 17 years old. But there's a lot to dream on here.
Yeah, loud tools, good chance to stay up the middle, good athlete. He's 6'2", 6'3", so there's a chance he grows off a shortstop. He's only 175 pounds. He might have 50 pounds to go get to fill out his frame, but it's a little similar to Noel V. Marte when the Mariners signed him. It's a kind of a similar profile there. So maybe Joseph is Noel V. Marte, but like you said, he's so far away. He's so raw that it's really tough to have a good feel for this. So there's a chance in 3 years we look up and he's the number one prospect in the system. There's a chance in 3 years we look up and he's, stuck in Modesto and like he struggled his first time stateside and he's a fringe top 30 guy. But the tools are loud and the frame is something that is pretty easy to project more power on. So yeah, he's got a shot to be an everyday player at the big league level and probably one who plays up the middle. And that is going to carry you quite a bit in prospect ranks.
So lastly, to wrap up our day here, Ryan Bliss comes in at number 11, who I think the Mariners would consider to be the prize of the Paul Sewald return. I know they really like Dom Canzone. I know they really like Josh Rojas, but I think getting Ryan Bliss was a real big deal for them in that trade. You have him ranked 13th, which you had him in your top 10 the last time we did this. Did something change?
I liked other guys better, and it just kind of pushed. Like it's nothing that Bliss did. It's just I like Farmelo, I like Pete, I like Jeter Martinez now. I feel like I've seen enough of him to, and I wonder if Bliss is an everyday player. That's my concern here, or is he more of just kind of a 400 plate appearance guy, but he does it at second. He plays a little short, maybe some third, which is still again a valuable player. He's number 11 in a good system, still a good player, but he's also, the size has to be concerned. How real is the power at that size? Now we can't say it's not real at all because guys like that never hit for power. I would point you to Dustin Pedroia and Jose Altuve, but those two guys are like Hall of Famers. So,
Brian Bliss is Altuve.
I mean, I know people think that. It's weird, right? That the Mariners, like two Mariner prospects get comped to, Astros and Mariner fans hate the Astros, but they want their players to be the Astros. So kind of funny how that works out. But Bliss is a guy who, if everything hits for him, he could hit 250, 260, league average on base, steal some bags. He's 20, 25 stolen base guy. And he might have, 10 to 15 homers. Now there's some things to clean up at second base, but he is a really good athlete. I don't think he's going to have any issues handling second base. He can play shortstop a little bit. You don't want him to, but if you have to, you're fine there. I don't know if he's quite got the arm for third base, but you don't have to have a great arm at third. You can fake it. I think he can play around the infield. He's a good enough athlete. You give him an outfield glove, he'd probably figure it out. This is a guy who's going to get a shot, we think, at some point this year if he earns it. So, there was a lot of thought coming into the offseason that he was just going to platoon with Rojas at second base, and we were going to see him on the major league roster on opening day. Not the case anymore. Quite a few things would have to go wrong for Bliss to make his debut on opening day, but there's a lot to be excited about here. It's just a matter how real is the power and how, is it a 55 hit? Is it a 45 hit? Like, where does it land? And obviously, the more power you have, the more margin of error you have on the hit tool. So there are some concerns about his physique, just height and weight, but he's a really good athlete, and I think he's going to be a really good player. Despite lowering him in my ranks, I'm still quite high on Ryan Bliss. I think he can be a really solid major leaguer.
No, you've established yourself as a Ryan Bliss hater.
I mean, you hate Cade Marlo, so
right.
Very similar profiles. Only Marlo's got prototypical size. Back to you, Ty.
Did you really just compare Cade Marlo to Ryan Bliss?
You're darn right I did.
All right.
Same player.
All right. That's going to do it for our show. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for the top 10 prospects. But for now, for Colby Patnode, I'm Ty and Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at LO_Mariners. You can follow me at Ty Dane Gonzalez and Colby at CPAT11. That's CPAT11. You can also find all that stuff in the description of this episode. Thank you again for making us your first listen. Have yourself a beautiful baseball day, and we'll see you next time. Peace.